There was once a comment in a book about Somerset which stated that Highbridge was one of the very few places in the county that had no real history, meaning, I would suspect, medieval history. This was of course in the main true, as little appeared until around 1850, but certainly there have been many changes in the industry and the shape of the town since then, which in itself gives the town its own history. An aerial view now of Highbridge taken about 1930, but the real beginnings, some 66 years before, came around 1854 with the arrival of the S&D Railway, then known as the Somerset Central Railway. Between then and the 1960s, much industry appeared in the town, but has since disappeared. For example, the S&D Railway, several large brickworks, the wharf with its coal and timber connections, a large bacon factory, and the cheese and poultry markets. These were all part of the town's changing landscape. From the 1960s to the present, many more changes have continued to be made. In 1851, Highbridge, not Bridgewater, was chosen as the terminal point of the Somerset Central Railway, as it afforded an entirely level route to Glastonbury along the valley of the River Brue. The line was opened for regular traffic in August 1854. Here in 1904 we can see the full extent of the station. (1905) The station now boasts a W.H. Smith bookstall on the left. Back in 1863, a connection was made which offered a service from the Bristol Channel to the English Channel. There were 4 trains a day, Highbridge to Poole. The journey time was 3 hours 15 minutes. However, in 1874, Evercreech to Highbridge became the branch line. As a sitting target for Dr. Beeching's axe, the line closed for regular traffic in 1966. Here is a view of where the station once stood, taken some 21 years later in 1987. Inside the local works now, in 1910, engines were reboilered and maintained, carriages were built. The site grew from 1854 into a major part of the S&D network until 1930, when the main works closed with a loss of 300 jobs, a major blow to the town, as at that time the population was approximately 2,000. After the closure of the main works, the site was still used to maintain locos used on the local line. Also, the United States Army used the area, having a large camp there. Later, a facility for a wagon repair depot was set up. This unfortunately was destroyed by fire in 1955. The group photo of employees was taken here outside the burnt-out building. 2 views next, taken in 1960s. The first looking out across the platforms, and as you can see, little visible now of the loco works. The second view, again in the 1960s, taken from the incoming platform looking towards the Western Region Line and Warrow Bridge. Here is the exact same view taken in 1986. March 1966, and the last passenger train arriving. It was virtually the end for a station once described as retaining its aura as an outpost of Victorian civilization. This engine has just left the S&D station, crossed the Western Region Line, and is heading towards the level crossing in Church Street next to the Old Lamb Inn. This area in the picture has now become Southwell Crescent. Bristol and Exeter Railway Station, 1905, showing the wooden platforms. It is believed the buildings were designed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel. In the early days, step off the train and look for transport, and this is what awaited you on the station approach. What better way to travel to Burnham, if you could afford it, of course. Station approach 1925. The S&D line crossed behind the main signal box in the background. As can be seen, quite a busy place at this time. And here we are, the same view in 1984. This scene shows a train crossing the Western Region line from the S&D station, travelling towards Church Street, then on to Burnham in the early 1960s. The engine belongs to the Western Region, but it is here being used on the S&D line. Next is a GWR poster 1939, advertising various trips to London. 14 shillings or perhaps 70p. Where are we? Could it be Highbridge Station? Yes. Preparations are made for the arrival of Queen Elizabeth II in December 1958. The arrival of the Queen at Highbridge, being greeted by Mrs. Herring. She then travelled through the town to Highbridge radio station, or to give it its more formal name, Portishead Radio. This is a view of the Western Region station just prior to the demolition of the buildings in November 1983. This scene will be remembered by many. The excitement at 6 p.m. each weekday to rush and see the Royal Mail train pick up and drop as it speeded past the end of Gashouse Lane, or should I say Springfield Road. In the early 1970s, the Royal Mail discontinued this procedure, and here we believe is the very last exchange taking place at Springfield Road. A view now, taken in the early 60s, of the level crossing in Church Street. The train from Burnham is an 044T Johnson, about to hand over the tablet used on a single line to Signal Box C. It then continues through what is now the main car park, General Higgins House and Southwell Crescent, and on to Highbridge S&D station. When the railway had gone, we had this view taken in 1986, but today the picture has changed. There are now a group of houses covering this area. Here we have a view of the crossing in the late 1950s. The large building beyond the signal box was the cinema. This has now disappeared and become private houses. The Western National Bus, route number 201, is passing through Highbridge on its regular service from Burnham to Taunton.